The happiest memory you have probably didn't feel happy while it was happening. That's the part nobody tells you about nostalgia. You didn't know in the moment that it was the good part. You were just living it, half distracted, checking your phone, worried about something unrelated. And only later, once it was unreachable, did your brain go back and stamp it as golden. Which means the thing you're aching for when you feel nostalgic was never actually that good while it was happening. You're not missing the moment, you're missing the version your memory built afterward, quietly, without asking your permission. I think that's why nostalgia feels so disorienting once you actually sit with it. It doesn't feel like remembering a fact. It feels like something happening to you right now, in your body, uninvited. A smell walks past you and suddenly you're not standing in a grocery store anymore. You're 17, in a car, with people who don't talk to you anymore. Nobody warns you that memory can ambush you like that. There's a reason it hits that hard. The word itself was invented by a doctor in the 1600s, and he didn't build it out of anything poetic. He combined two Greek words. One meant homecoming, the other meant pain. He wasn't describing a nice feeling. He was diagnosing soldiers who were getting physically sick from missing a place they couldn't return to. Back then, they genuinely thought it could kill you. So somewhere along the way, this thing that used to be classified as an illness turned into something we chase on purpose. We replay old playlists. We scroll old photos at midnight for no reason. We text people we haven't spoken to in years, just to see if the feeling is still there on the other end. We turned a diagnosis into a hobby. And I don't think that's an accident, because underneath it, nostalgia is doing something for you. Psychologists have a specific phrase for it, a positive emotion with tones of loss, which is just a clean way of saying you're happy and grieving at the exact same moment, and neither one cancels the other out. You're not sad, then happy. You're both, at once. Which is probably why it's so hard to explain to someone who isn't currently feeling it. Here's where it gets stranger though. It's almost never triggered by the big stuff. Nobody gets hit with nostalgia thinking about their graduation on purpose. It's a specific taste, a drink that used to turn your whole mouth an unnatural colour, a soup someone only made when you were sick, not because it tasted good, but because of what it meant that they made it. The big moments don't do it, the small, dumb, specific ones do. I went through a period where I actively avoided anything that could trigger it. I stopped listening to music from a certain year of my life entirely, on purpose, because every time a song came on, I'd feel that ache, and it would ruin whatever mood I was already in. I told myself I was protecting my present by refusing to visit the past. Like, nostalgia was a room I could just keep the door shut on if I tried hard enough. It didn't work, obviously. If anything, avoiding it made it worse when it did break through, because I'd built up this idea that feeling it meant something was wrong with me. Like missing something meant I hadn't moved on, hadn't grown, was somehow stuck. So eventually I did the opposite. I went looking for it on purpose. I went back to an old neighborhood I used to live in. Actually drove there, parked outside a building that used to matter to me, expecting the flood, expecting to feel 17 again standing on that sidewalk. I didn't. I felt almost nothing. The building looked smaller than I remembered and colder, and I stood there waiting for the ache, and it just didn't come. What came instead was something closer to confusion. Like, I'd shown up to meet someone who used to live there and found out that they'd moved years ago without telling me. That's when I actually understood what I'd been missing this whole time. And it wasn't the building at all. It was never the building, or the year, or even the people. It was the version of me who existed there. The one who hadn't made certain decisions yet, who still had every direction open. That version wasn't standing on the sidewalk waiting for me. That version doesn't exist anywhere anymore, not even in the place where he used to live. If you've ever gone back somewhere expecting the feeling to be waiting for you and it wasn't, I want to hear about it, because I think that specific disappointment teaches you something the ache itself never could. Tell me where you went and what you actually found when you got there. There's a word I came across once, made up for a dictionary of feelings that don't have official names, that describes this exact thing. A nostalgic yearning that feels better than the actual moment you're yearning for ever really was. Which means that the ache is often more generous to the past than the past deserves. You're not missing what happened. You're missing what your memory has quietly upgraded it into. And once I understood that, the ache stopped feeling like proof that something was wrong with my present. It started feeling like proof of something else entirely. You don't get nostalgic for time you slept through. You get nostalgic for the stretches where you were actually paying attention, even if you didn't know you were paying attention at the time. Which means the feeling was never really about the past being better. It was your own evidence that you're capable of being fully present somewhere, that you've done it before without even trying. The question was never how do you get back to that building, or that year, or that version of yourself. It's whether you're paying attention to anything right now that you'll ache for later. And if you're not sure, that's not something to mourn. That's just the one part of this whole feeling you're actually allowed to do something about.